Good afternoon, everybody. I hope everybody can hear me okay. Welcome to this afternoon's webinar on HACCP GMP. We're going to specifically look at how we would implement the HACCP GMP requirements for the transport and storage sector. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat box. I'm going to start. The session's being recorded. If you have any questions, I can answer those at the end. So for those of you who are not familiar with us, we are NQA. We're a certification body working globally all around the world. We have main offices in the States, the UK, India and China. We've got over 50,000 certificates globally. And we specialise in these areas, so heavily in quality, health and safety, in environmental, but also very highly of risk management, food safety, medical devices, automotive and aerospace. As well as being a certification body, we do have a range of training courses. Check those out on our website. This is me, just an introduction to myself and some key information about the webinar. The webinar should be no longer than 30 minutes today, probably about 25 minutes. As I said before, if you've got any questions, please put them in the chat box. Do like a question. And the recording of the webinar will be circulated probably early next week. So I am Maria. I'm the Food Certification Manager for NQA. I've been working in the certification industry, specifically in food safety, for over 15 years. And it's my role as Food Certification Manager for NQA to oversee our accreditation and certification of our food safety management system standards. And also cascade any technical knowledge and changes within the industry to our clients and our auditors. So what will you learn today? You'll receive an overview on the general principles of food hygiene code of practice, specifically in relation to transport and storage of food and feed. I hope to give you some tips and techniques for managing the requirements and the guidelines whilst adding value to your business and continual improvement. And there's been some changes to the HACCP guidelines over the last 12 months, and I hope to give you some interpretation of the new or updated requirements. So what is HACCP? So officially, the HACCP is science-based and systematic, identifies specific hazards and measures for their control to ensure the safety of food. HACCP is a tool to assess hazards and establish control systems that focus on prevention rather than relying mainly on end product testing. And we follow the guidelines that are incorporated into the Codex Alimentarius Code of Practice General Principles of Food Hygiene. And this is applicable to all organisations within the food chain. So as I mentioned, we are specifically looking at HACCP for transport and storage organisations within part of the food chain. It's part of the food chain that sometimes gets a bit forgotten, but it's a very important part of the chain. I've put some sort of keywords on this slide, because not everybody does transport and storage. They might just do transport, just do storage. They might just do a sort of a contract in warehouse. They may just do shipping, may just be moving stuff by rail, etc. So first of all, just a little bit about the changes. So there was an update of the guidelines over the last 12 months. The official revision date is 2020. We're in the process of adopting the new code of practice when auditing our food safety clients. The main changes are a few wording changes. So, for example, loss of control has been replaced with the word deviation, because a deviation doesn't always mean that you've lost control. It might mean it's outside of the limit or the intended limit. There's some update to the wording, specifically in the seven principles of HACCP. So principle 1, they've added conduct a hazard analysis and identify control measures. 2 is unchanged. 3, they've added the word validated before critical limits. 4 is unchanged. 5, they've added on establishing corrective actions. They've added on the deviation when there's a deviation from a critical limit. Principle 6 has been reworded, and this is about validating the HACCP plan. Some other changes, the 2020 revision includes food safety culture. Any of you that are involved in GFSI standards, so BRC, FSSC, they've all included modules and specific clauses around food safety culture. The main reason for this is it's increasingly been proven that many food safety incidents could have been avoided if the food safety culture and leadership commitment is healthy. So also within the new code of practice, the reference GMP has been changed to GHP. So instead of good manufacturing or good manufacture practice, it's now changed to good hygiene practice. Personally, I think this is a change for the good, because lots of people used the fact that if they weren't manufacturing, that the GMP guidelines requirements didn't apply to them. But of course, good hygiene practice applies to everybody. At the beginning of the code of practice, there's a definition section. Lots of people don't read this. It's quite important to read this, because people often they think they know the meaning or the interpretation of a phrase, but they might not fully understand it. So yeah, have a read of the definitions. Okay, so the layout of the guidelines, there's 2 chapters. Chapter 1 is your old GMP, so it's now good hygiene practice, and chapter 2 is your HACCP principles. And then at the end, there's an annex with some comparisons of control measures examples, and some versions of the guidelines also have an example of a hazard analysis decision tree. to just, again, we refer to GHP now instead of GMP, although GMP is widely recognised and understood within the industry. I think GMP will stay around for a long time. It's going to take a long time for it to be reknown as a GHP. So looking at the 7 principles of HACCP. So principle 1, conduct your hazard analysis and identify your control measures. Principle 2, determine the critical control points, your CCPs. Principle 3, establish validated critical limits. Principle 4, establish a system to monitor control of CCPs. Principle 5, establish the corrective action to be taken when monitoring indicates a deviation from a critical limit at a CCP has occurred. Principle 6, validate the HACCP plan and then establish procedures for verification to confirm that the HACCP system is working as intended. Principle 7, establish documentation concerning all procedures and records appropriate to these principles and their application. So this is my recommendation, an approach to establishing HACCP for a company within transport and storage sector of food and feed. This is what I recommend you do. So I recommend you create a flow diagram of the activities that you carry out. So your first flow diagram is going to be quite basic, but then you consult people of all levels of your organisation to make sure you capture every step. Once you've got your flow diagram correct, then you identify all of your possible food safety hazards at every step or between each step. Your flow diagram at this stage is going to be possibly going to be huge, but don't worry, you know, it's all part of the process. You need to consider everything before you can consolidate. Once you've done this, you can work through the HACCP principles. Some of your hazards then will be controlled by your prerequisites. They might be PRPs, they might be critical control points, they might be managed by an operational prerequisite program. So then you can work through your HACCP principles, and then this is the way I would recommend you do it. It's back to front. But once you've worked through the 7 principles, go back and work through chapter 1. So then work through your GHP guidelines. Once everything's up and running, you might consider then what's next for you. At the moment, everybody seems to be being pushed for some kind of certification, depending how prepared you are and how established your food safety management system is. You might want to go on to ISO 22000, an accredited food safety management system scheme. You may have a HACCP standalone certificate. If you've already got ISO 9001, it's very easy to add HACCP to that. Or if you're being asked by your customers that they would like you to be GFSI certified, you might need to start looking at FSSC 22000, or there's other GFSI standards as well, such as BRC and IFS. Once you've decided what to do, you need to start doing internal audits. But you should be doing them anyway, but if you want to be certified to a standard, they will all require you to have an internal audit program. It doesn't have to be one internal audit, it can be many. Depending on your organisation, you can determine how many and who does those. Most standards require that the internal auditor is independent of the process that they're auditing. It's important to continue to review your HACCP plan. Food safety hazards are changing all the time. You should continually try to improve your system. With food safety, not all hazards are eliminated, therefore changes can be made to your controls to improve them. And just as an example, we never saw a global pandemic would be coming and that it would affect food safety. But with changes to social distancing and the wearing of PPE, everything has affected your food safety. So it's really important to continue checking your system after any change, even if you think, you know, the fact that staff now have to wear masks, you know, how's that going to affect food safety? But you know, it is. It's bringing you new hazards, into the factory, into the areas that you're storing product. Yeah, continually check and review your systems. So we've teamed up with IQMS, who offer a number of food safety training courses. You can find details of those on our website. We also do a number of advanced training courses to complement your CPD requirements. And that's it. I told you I was going to be quick, and I've done it super fast today. Do we have any questions? No? All good then. If you have any questions, feel free to email me or email our marketing team, and they'll forward them on to me. I do like questions. The last session that I ran of this presentation, I had quite a few questions, and I've not noted them down, but maybe next time I'll do it, I'll add them to the presentation, because I think if that one person's got a question, chances are lots of people are going to ask the same question. But thank you all for attending today. It's been a pleasure. Short and sweet. If you've got any suggestions of any other subjects with regards to food safety that we could do in the future, please do let me know. If not, have a lovely weekend, have a lovely afternoon, and I'll see you soon.